Hi everyone and welcome back to Tennis Time. The Monte Carlo Tennis Masters 1000 has just finished a few hours ago. It was a wonderful start to the clay court season. Admittedly, there were two other tournaments before this in Spain and in Italy, two 50 events, but the caliber of players has been really high at this year's Monte Carlo Masters. At the beginning of the tournament, I did a preview and I want to go through a few of those matches which have been highly anticipated. So that's going to be the first thing we're going to talk about. Have a look at the biggest matches, but the two matches I especially want to talk about. One is the quarterfinal match between Andrei Rublev and Rafa Nadal. The other one is the final between Stefanos Tsitsipas and Andrei Rublev. And in the final part of this video, I'm going to have a look. I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the evolution of the Masters 1000 events. I've looked, starting from 2005 up until today, all the Masters 1000 tournaments which have been played. I want to look at the dominance of the big three or big four. We could even say including Andy Murray. And let's see how that evolved since 2017, because that seems to be the year when the dominance of Nadal, Djokovic, Murray and Federer seems to started to fade a little bit. Alright, so first up, these are highly anticipated matches, at least from my end, and I think these are worth mentioning. Jannik Sinner against Ramos Vinolas. I was expecting a tough match. This was Sinner's first tournament back since Miami, and Ramos Vinolas just a week before has played Pablo Carreño Busta in the Andalusia Open semi-finals, where he had been serving for the match. He lost that one, so he was in really good form and good shape. And in the match against Sinner, I was really hoping to see Sinner against Djokovic in the second round, because I think that's a fascinating encounter, a fascinating matchup. And I think that's really showing the old, very, very strong generation against the young up-and-coming player in Sinner. So I had my wish. Ramos Vinolas started off well. He had a 2-love lead, but eventually lost the set 6-3, and the second set was pretty similar to the first one. So we didn't have the Sinner-Djokovic second round match. I was expecting a lot from Musetti. Since he had a good week the week before in Italy, in Sardinia, in Cagliari. But Karatsev came on really strong, and Musetti had no chance. There was a rain delay, an interruption, but Karatsev just picked up where he left off, and he was very dominant. Another interesting first round match I was really anticipating and wanting to see was FA against Garin. So FA had really so many chances to close out that first set and to win that first set, but Garin held strong and he's won that match in straight sets. The first set was a close tiebreak, second set was rather easy, 6-1. I was really curious to see how FA would fare against anybody, basically, since he started to work with Tony Nadal. But he was so close so many times, and I think if this was a hard court, he definitely would have won the first set. But since this is clay, he needs to learn even more patience, and I think Tony Nadal is a good partner for him to achieve that goal. So it will be really interesting to watch Felix on this clay court season in the next tournaments where he's going to show off. So I'm really looking forward to see the evolution in his game and if there are going to be any changes. So in the second round, moving on, we had the Djokovic-Sinner match. I was anticipating a very close encounter. It was a close encounter, but nonetheless Djokovic was holding very firm and very strong, and he won in straight sets. So Sinner still needs to get a few more matches under his belt and play these big three players until he's going to get a little bit closer. But I think he's definitely on the right track and he's going to achieve that. Another second round match which was entertaining was the Zverev-Sonego match. I rather enjoyed that one. Not sure if anybody has seen it, or especially the end, but when Zverev won, he ran into his own box, sat down and started to applaud. So he showed the dissatisfaction towards his team, that he was telling them, you're not supporting me enough, you're not applauding enough. I thought that was an unwelcome gesture. So that's mainly the reason, because I've picked the Zverev-Sonego match here. Tsitsipas against Karatsev. So I've put down that one here because for Tsitsipas this was his first clay court match of the season. Karatsev was coming in strong after beating an informed Musetti in the previous round. Tsitsipas destroyed Karatsev in that first match, so I was really impressed at the beginning of the week already with Tsitsipas. Hurkacz, he's beaten Fabiano in the first round but faltered to Evans, the Miami 1000 champion. A little bit disappointing maybe, but not too surprising since this is a clay court Masters. So round 3 was really full with excitement, especially when Dan Evans has managed to put out Djokovic in straight sets basically. Evans really started strongly, 3-love up with 2 breaks. He was almost 4-love up. Djokovic came back. He made it a close first set. He made it an even closer second set because Djokovic was the one up in the second with a break lead. Evans came back, and in the end, at 5-all in the second, Evans managed to break and he served out the match. So that was a rather surprise. Maybe we can put it down as a surprising win for Evans. Evans was going strong still in the next rounds. He reached the semis, where he's run into Tsitsipas and he's lost quite comfortably against Tsitsipas. But I'm not sure if I would definitely say that this was a surprise, because Djokovic lost. This was his first match coming back, so his first tournament rather, I should say, his first tournament after coming back from his Australian Open win after his abdominal injury which he sustained over there. So even though he had a good first match against Sinner, he wasn't playing that badly against Evans, but normally a really informed Djokovic should have won that match. So maybe this is not the right word, but the only word that comes to mind right now to me is maybe is a little bit rusty. But I think if he goes next week to Serbia, he's going to play in Belgrade in his hometown tournament, or home country tournament. Then I think he's going to pick up a few wins and a little bit more boost of confidence, winning a few more matches on clay. And I think he will be a force to reckon with in the next rounds, next tournament. Goffin had an impressive showing at this year's Masters 1000. Goffin is somebody who didn't really have too good of a period lately. He's also somebody who reached 30 years of age already, and he's put out Zverev, so I was pleasantly surprised by that performance. Probably the most thrilling match of the third round was Rublev playing RBA. That was a scintillating match. Rublev was sort of cramping in the third set already, but he managed to come back and hold firm against Bautista Agut. So that was really one of his best performances on clay this year, and one of his best wins, I think. So in the quarterfinal, the match I wanted to talk to you a little bit more in detail about was the Rublev-Nadal match. So when I was doing the preview, I anticipated this quarterfinal because this is Monte Carlo, this is Nadal. He has to win 2 matches. He's definitely going to be in the quarterfinal, and I anticipated that Rublev is going to be there as well, since he's been in really good form throughout the last year or so, I should say. He's won 5 tournaments in the 2020 season, and given the fact that so many tournaments for so many months have not been played, that was an impressive feat by itself. And now he's won the Rotterdam Open already. He's been in the Doha semi-finals. He's been in the Australian Open quarterfinal. So he's been in the Miami Masters 1000 semi-final as well. So he's been really on a roll lately, and it was sort of anticipated that he would get to the quarterfinal. But when he runs into Nadal, the 11-time Monaco champion, the 13-time French Open champion, you would have expected Nadal to win, especially they've played 2 times in the past. I had the impression that Nadal's game matches up quite well to Rublev's, and he has the upper hand. The 2 times before they've played was in the 2017 US Open quarterfinal, where Rublev was still really young. He was 19. Nadal won the tournament that year. He was really in super good form. And the last time they've met was in the World Tour finals at the end of last year, where Nadal also won in straight sets. It was closer, 6-3 and 6-4. Nonetheless, Rublev really came out strong in this match. So he was 2-love up already, breaking. And Nadal showed some signs of a comeback. He's managed to get back to 2-all. He's broken back. But after that, he did not win one single game. So he lost the set 6-2. And what I was really surprised by, or impressed with Rublev, was the fact that he's talked about this many times. He considers Nadal his idol. He admires Nadal very, very much because of the way Nadal conducts himself on the court. He's not throwing rackets, he's not throwing anything. He's really super intense and concentrated, and this is something that Rublev sort of really admires, because if you think back or look back at Rublev's career, this is something he really had problems with, his temper. He really wants to win very, very badly, and if things don't go his way, and he gets cranky and he gets mad and he loses concentration many times. So in this match, he really was not losing any focus, really concentrated. And Nadal by itself wasn't playing particularly well. He had flashes of brilliance, as he normally does, but he wasn't able to bring that sort of game, that level of play to the court. He was missing so many backhands. Throughout the entire match, the backhand wasn't really working, and Rublev's strategy was to go more to Nadal's backhand, to continuously pepper Nadal's backhand. Rublev was really changing direction so well. Even if Nadal managed to hit sometimes a good topspin forehand, it didn't bother Rublev too much. So he was prepared for it, and he was redirecting the ball so many times to Nadal's backhand. And he was going for his flat, really hard shots, and the shots paid off, and he was making Nadal scramble all the time. And at the beginning of the second set, the games were long and close, but Rublev managed to get a break, and he was 3-1 up. So after that, Nadal held, and Rublev was still ahead at 4-2. Nadal held serve, and that was the moment when he's broken Rublev the first time. So Nadal was really fighting so incredibly hard, showing that competitive spirit that he has. And despite the fact that he wasn't playing as he would have liked to, most certainly, and missing so many backhands, serve was giving him a lot of problems as well, especially in the first set. But in the second set, he still hit 2 double faults. In the first set, he's hit 5. And his first serve wasn't working. The first serve percentage was low, really low, and that's rather unusual for Nadal. So that gave him all sorts of problems, but nonetheless, the pressure player he is, and he's really the guy who knows how to conduct himself in pressure situations. He managed to squeeze out that set after breaking and coming even to 4-all. He outserved, and then he's broken Rublev. He was love 40 up. Rublev won the next 2 points, but the 3rd he couldn't win it anymore, and Nadal is broken and taken the set. So you would have thought, okay, so Nadal somehow managed to play himself into the matches. If you think of the old Nadal, it was relatively common for him to be able to play himself into the matches when things were not going really his way. He found a way to get himself into the points. Even though the opponent was playing lights out tennis, he was scrambling, he was defending, he was putting so many balls back into play. And you sort of had the impression that, okay, after a while he manages to get into the match and he manages to grind his opponents down, even though the opponent is for a long period of time apparently the better player. And today the same thing was going on for the most part. The difference between the old and the new Nadal, or today's Nadal, we shouldn't say new, so the today's Nadal, he wasn't, or he isn't used to defending that much anymore. That's not his game anymore. He wants to finish points earlier. So he's okay with rallying sometimes in long rallies, but he does that 5 times, 8 times, 9, maybe 10 times in a set, but he doesn't do it on a regular basis, point after point. That's not his game anymore. He's playing the more of the first strike tennis, and this is what he's been doing, in my opinion, since around 2017, a lot more. Attacking earlier. And given the fact that that kind of game wasn't really working for him because he was simply off his game, he was missing too many points. He was missing too many shots, especially on that backhand side. And Rublev was still pushing on that backhand. He just didn't really manage to find his defensive game, and the offensive game was still not working because he couldn't put himself into the position to play enough defense to turn it later into offense, because Rublev was just simply too strong. He was hitting so hard and he wasn't really missing that much. But nonetheless, as I said, Nadal managed to squeeze out that second set, and in the third was very similar from a dominance level to the first set. And there wasn't really much you thought Nadal could have changed or could have done. So Rublev was simply the better player in the third set. Nadal was not up to his level. He did not manage to play himself up until to that level in that third set. So for Rublev, that was really a deserved win. Nonetheless, even though Nadal is now 34, he's turning 35 in June the 3rd. Many people may think, okay, Nadal has had these physical issues at the Australian Open. He had these back problems. He was 2 sets to love up against Tsitsipas, and he lost. Now he's losing in an early round, a relatively early round in the quarterfinals against Rublev on clay, on his Monte Carlo beloved clay court surface. So is he really on the threats, or is he no longer maybe the favorite for the French Open? People might ask the question. I don't really think he is not so I would not say that he is not the favorite for the French Open. This was the first tournament back for him since the Australian Open, just like for Djokovic. It was a long layoff. Nadal used to be really good at taking long breaks and coming back and playing at his highest level. And if you would have watched the first 2 matches he played against Delbonis and then against Dimitrov, you would have said it's the very same thing. He's back, he's playing great. No rust at all. He's back at his top level on clay. Well, no. Last year the same thing happened, basically. Or in 2019, a very similar thing happened. So when Nadal came back in 2019, he's played the Monte Carlo Masters. He's got to the semis, so he was even one run further when he played Fognini. he sort of did not manage to find his game. I think that match was even worse than the one he played against Rublev. He went on to Barcelona. He lost the team in 2019, so he lost in Madrid as well in 2019 against Tsitsipas in the semis. So you felt like the invincible Nadal, the clay court player, the clay court superstar, is losing matches. But when he got down to Rome and he was more in form, he had those 3 tournaments played under his belt, he was a lot more confident, and he's beaten Djokovic in the final in Rome, so he was back on track, and he's won the French Open dominantly. Last year, after the pandemic, he had again a very long layoff. He's played the Rome as a warm-up tournament. He was in the quarters. He lost to Schwartzmann in a similar fashion that he lost against Fognini in the 2019 Monte Carlo semi, or a similar fashion how he lost in the Monte Carlo quarters now against Rublev. I think today or this year at the Monte Carlo Masters in the quarters, he's shown his most strongest fighting spirit out of these 3 matches I've mentioned. Nonetheless, this was still not enough for him to get through. But I think for him, the preparation is going to be similar as it was in 2019. He needs a few more tournaments. He may lose a few more times on the clay circuit. But when it gets to the French Open, I think he will be ready. And the same goes for Djokovic. Djokovic had such a long layoff. He will play Belgrade next week, as I said. After that, Madrid-Rome comes, and I think they will be fit. Okay, so that about the Nadal-Rublev match mostly. Now, let's jump over the semi-finals, and let's get to the final, because I think that was a really interesting match. The Tsitsipas against Rublev final. So when I was thinking at the beginning of the match who I favor, it was very, very, very difficult to choose. I would have thought maybe Tsitsipas, I would give him the edge, because the last time when they played on clay at the French Open, it was the bigger occasion in the quarters, he's won. And now during this week, he's won all his matches really convincingly. Every single match in straight sets, he was playing so well. And although Rublev was also playing incredibly good tennis, but the match against RBA must have taken a lot out of him. The same thing would be true for the quarterfinal against Nadal. And then he had a reasonably tough match against Ruud in the semi-finals as well. So I thought maybe physically, mentally, the combination of the occasion. This is Rublev's very first Masters 1000 final. And this is Tsitsipas's third. He's lost the previous 2. The first in Toronto against Nadal in 2018. The next against Djokovic in 2019 on clay in Madrid, after beating Nadal in the semis, losing to Djokovic in the finals. So I felt he's ready. So Tsitsipas's game seems to be working, or seems to be suited to every kind of surface. It's a little bit like Federer's game, but if you take a look at Federer's game, you would say his least favorite or least suited is clay. Nonetheless, he's still a French Open champion and he's played the French Open final 5 times. I feel with Tsitsipas, it's a little bit similar. His game is suited to any surface, but the difference with him is that normally when he returns, or his return of serve, he's being maybe a little bit more rushed on a hard court or on grass. He's not that much rushed on a clay court, so he's a little bit more time here, and his returns are more effective. What I was so impressed with in today's final was the fact that Rublev was doing he was suffocating Nadal with going to his backhand all the time. He was doing a similar tactic. He was playing a similar tactic against Christian Ruud in the semi-finals, peppering that backhand and forcing Ruud to play the backhand all the time. And then when he attacked with his forehand, then Ruud or Nadal were really out of court, and he had relatively easy winners on the forehand side when he was hitting with his forehand or going for the opponent's forehand side. He couldn't do that against Tsitsipas today. Tsitsipas has a single-handed backhand, and you would say, okay, that's a little bit more fragile of a shot sometimes. But as I'm saying, what I was so impressed with today, he was so confident on that backhand. Maybe it's also because he had a little bit more time. Monte Carlo is a slow clay court surface, so that may have helped him. But the other thing I thought was so impressive was when Rublev was hitting strong, he was hitting hard, and he was trying to push his opponent back. He was trying to push Tsitsipas back. Tsitsipas didn't really let himself to be pushed back too much. Or even if he was rather further back, the way he was going for his counter shots, he was hitting so well. He was hitting the ball so well. He had so much length. So he was controlling the points, even though you had the impression that Rublev is more on the baseline and trying to dominate from the baseline. And Tsitsipas was 3 meters, 4 meters, maybe sometimes further back behind the baseline. But nonetheless, he was moving so well. And he also managed many times to run around his backhand and hit a forehand. So Tsitsipas played an almost perfect match. The serve was working really well. The return was working really well. The movement around the court was fantastic. He mixed his ground strokes up just when he had to. The mental attitude, the mental fortitude he's shown today in the final was of a guy who knew what he wanted to do. He knew he would be able to execute it, and he didn't buckle. And this is probably the thing that I'm most impressed with, because at the Australian Open, prior to playing Nadal, he was sort of having the attitude that, yeah, it would be a great goal to want to beat Nadal at the Grand Slam or right now at the Australian Open, but he didn't seem confident that he should set that goal because he couldn't do it or he wasn't able to achieve it. So I was feeling that he had sort of a lack of self-confidence when he was playing Medvedev in the semi-finals. Sorry, he played Nadal in the quarters and beat him after being 2 sets to love down, and when he's playing Medvedev, I thought actually it would have been a much closer match when he's playing Nadal, but no, he lost kind of rather badly against Medvedev. And he was saying afterwards in the press conference that these situations are so tense and so tight for him that he has difficulties dealing with these situations. So thinking of that, and a moment like last year's US Open in the third round when he was playing Choric, and he had a bunch of match points, and he still lost the match in 5 sets after being 2 sets to 1 up and serving for it and having match points in the tiebreak and so on and so forth. He was also very nervous when he played Djokovic at the end of the season at the French Open semi-final. He was also 2 sets to love down, and then he came back because ultimately, I suppose, when he was 2 sets to love down already, he started to play more freely, but he couldn't really finish the 5th set strongly because he sort of picked up a leg injury, if I remember correctly. So my point is, Tsitsipas had a lot of instances throughout his career when he was playing a match with high stakes and he faltered. This was today a match with high stakes, a tournament with high stakes for him, because he said it himself. after the match that for him emotionally this is one of the most important tournaments. Personally, he's having an attachment, a connection with this place, since this is the first event he visited when he was 6 years old, and he came back and he's seen Nadal and Federer playing finals there, and so he really felt that this is a big thing and this is a big occasion for him, and he managed to win today. And as I said, there was absolutely no hesitation and no doubt in his mind that he could do it. So, given that fact, I think this is a big milestone for him. He's become now for the first time a Masters 1000 champion. And I would say, really, we have to watch out for him throughout the rest of the clay court season. Whether it's maybe Barcelona, not so, because that's not one of the highest stakes coming up. But nonetheless, next week Barcelona is up. He's going to be there. He's probably going to be in Madrid. He's probably going to be in Rome, and he's definitely going to be at the French Open. And I think he's going to be very, very dangerous at the French Open. I'm expecting a deep run from Tsitsipas. If he manages to keep this level, he's going to be so dangerous. We were thinking in the last few years that when Nadal stops not winning the French Open anymore, it's going to be Thiem stepping in his shoes, in his place. His team has been in the 2018 and 2019 finals, losing both times to Nadal. Last year, after winning the US Open, he was a little bit fatigued going into the French. He lost there after a tough match he had against Gaston in the fourth round. In the quarters, a super grueling match against Diego Schwartzman. But I don't really see Thiem being one of the favorites up until now in the French Open. He's nowhere to be found. He seems to be re-evaluating things or priorities. If he's not playing matches, he is not going to be ready. Okay, having said that, last topic. So, as I said, I've been watching at the Masters 1000 winners from the last for the last 140 Masters 1000 tournaments, starting in 2005 from Indian Wells up until today in the Monte Carlo Masters in 2021. So I actually did make the calculation, given the fact that in 2020 only 3 Masters 1000s have been played, and during this year only 2 as of yet. So that means a total of 140 Masters 1000 tournaments have been played since March 2005. And if you look at the lists here and at the names, you overwhelmingly see Federer, Nadal, Djokovic, and even Andy Murray winning the majority of those matches. So I have made a breakdown here of Indian Wells, Miami, Monte Carlo, Madrid, Rome, the Canadian Masters, because that's split between Toronto and Montreal, Cincinnati, Shanghai. I've split Hamburg with Shanghai because when Shanghai has become officially a Masters 1000, then Hamburg stopped to be a Masters 1000. So basically there was a swap, although Hamburg was played on clay and Shanghai is played indoors. That's the split I've done here, so bear with me. And then Paris. So if you look over here, so you can see Indian Wells, Nadal 3, Federer 4, Djokovic 5. In Miami, Nadal has never won, but Federer 4 times, Djokovic 6 times. Remember, this is starting with 2005. Monte Carlo, Nadal 11 victories, Federer's never won it, Djokovic 2, and only the other 3 were coming from Stan Wawrinka in 2014, Fabio Fognini in 19, and Tsitsipas this year. Madrid. So this is basically, this has been up until 2009 an indoor Masters. but since 2009 it's a clay court tournament. So Nadal has won it 5 times in total, Federer 3, Djokovic 3, Murray 2. Once Murray's won it once as an indoor event and once as an outdoor event. Rome. So Nadal 9, Djokovic 5, total dominance. Murray once, Zverev once. Canada, Nadal 5, Federer once, Djokovic 4 times, and Murray 3 times. So dominance by these 4 players. Cincinnati, Nadal's won it only once, but Federer 7 times, Djokovic 2 times, Murray 2 times. Hamburg, Shanghai. So Nadal has won Hamburg once, Federer has won Shanghai twice, and Hamburg also twice, I think. Djokovic 4-time winner in Shanghai, Murray 3-time winner in Shanghai. The Paris Masters is one which is really spread out. Nadal has never won it, Federer has just won it once. Djokovic is the dominant player here, winning it 5 times, Murray once. And then you see a very odd number of players, intruders, basically breaking up this big 4 dominance. Nalbandian winning in 2007, Jack Sock in 2017, Medvedev in 2020, Thomas Berdych in 2005, Tsonga in 2008, Khachanov in 2018, Federer in 2012, Davydenko in 2009, I think, and Söderling in 2010. So the Paris Masters is very clearly, it's so visible and everybody feels it, that this is the last Masters 1000 of the year. People are getting more ready to kick off the off season or go to the World Tour finals. So I think the focus is not really that hard, or has not been that hard from these big 4 players here, with the exception of Djokovic, of course, who's won it 5 times. Okay, so if I go even further with the breakdown, so you can see here, I've put it down here. There have been 140 Masters played since March 2005 Indian Wells, and out of those, 109 out of the 140 have been won by Djokovic, Nadal, Federer and Murray. So again, since 2005 Indian Wells, Djokovic has won 36, a staggering number, record number of 36 Masters 1000 titles. Nadal has won 35, Federer has won 24, and Murray has won 14. So the next person on the list has a win of 3. So the difference between the 4th as being Andy Murray is 114, and the next of the active players today having won is 3. So that's a difference of 11 Masters 1000 titles. So Zverev has won 3, Medvedev has won 3, Davydenko is retired, he's won 3, Roddick is also retired, has won 2, Tsonga has won 2, Del Potro 1, Ljubicic 1, Dominic Thiem, he's won only 1. So imagine that. Such a strong, really strong player on clay, and is number 1 on Masters 1000 there. He's lost multiple times to Nadal in finals and to Zverev. Isner has won 1. Hubert Hurkacz is the one who's won in Miami. Now Stan Wawrinka once on clay in 2014 in Monte Carlo. Fognini 2019. Tsitsipas now. Cilic has won Cincinnati in 2016. Dimitrov also in 2017 in Cincinnati. Tommy Rebredo has also won 1. Nalbandian also won, I think that was Paris 2007. Jack Sock 2017 Paris. Berdych Paris. Khachanov Paris. Federer Paris. Söderling Paris, and I said Hurkacz winning in Miami. I think I mentioned that before already. So these are the stats, these are the numbers. I was really so incredibly impressed with the fact that out of the 140 Masters 1000 tournaments, 109 have been won by these big 4 players. if you look at this list again, so 2017 starts off strongly with domination by Federer, then Nadal winning the first 2+2, and then this is the first time when you really see out of place things going on, because in 2016 you see, okay, Cilic has won one, so he was the one who's broken the pack, the Djokovic, Nadal, Murray, Federer series. In 2015 you had nobody breaking that. In 14 you had Tsonga and Wawrinka. In 13 again just Nadal, Djokovic and Murray. In 12 just Federer, Djokovic, Nadal. And you had David Ferrer. So you can clearly see that there is a very, very strong domination of Nadal, Federer, Djokovic and Murray winning these tournaments. And then in 2017, as I said, in Rome, Zverev was the first, and then he's won the Canadian in Montreal in 2017, then Dimitrov in Cincinnati, and at the end of the year, Jack Sock again. So you had now already 3 new winners in 2017. That was a big thing, and 2018 continued just like that, with Del Potro winning his first, then Isner winning, then Zverev winning again, and then Khachanov winning in Paris. So you had with Del Potro, Isner, Zverev and Khachanov 5 new names, of 5 tournaments with 4 new names. And then 2019 Thiem, Fognini, Medvedev. So obviously last year there weren't too many played. Medvedev winning outside of Djokovic 1, and now you had Hurkacz and Tsitsipas, 2 new names. So I see a very clear trend since Rome 2017 that the new generation is taking over and they're winning more Masters 1000 in events. And I expect that trend to continue throughout the year and probably in the next years, of course, as well. Okay, this was rather a long one, but I really enjoyed doing it. I think we had fantastic tennis throughout the week in Monte Carlo. I'm expecting great things to come as of the 2021 clay court season. Please tell me what you think. How do you agree? Do you not agree with my analysis? Please comment below, leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done that already. See you in the next video.